What's going on, everybody? My name is Mr. Leong, and welcome back to another episode of the Starter Kit, back at my channel called Business Basics. So I'm going to keep it short and sweet. Today, we are here to learn about some various types of advertising and some traditional forms such as television, radio, magazine, etc. So let's get started with today's lesson on some forms of advertising media. Now, if you haven't done so already, feel free to subscribe to my channel and you can hit the bell notification so you're notified every time I upload a new video to YouTube. Thank you to those who are tuning into my videos, liking and commenting, and let's keep up with the Starter Kit. Hopefully I get to 100 episodes of some business basics. So types of advertising media. Traditionally, we have billboards, newspapers, and TV ads. And now a lot of advertising is moving online. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. And I'm going to do a special playlist on e-commerce and developing an online presence. But I thought it'd be nice to go back to the business basics and learn about some types of advertising media. Now, if you don't know what an ad is, it's pretty straightforward. It's a sponsored, non-personal message designed to promote or to sell a product, service, or idea. So it's any type of promotional marketing. So I talked about promotion in a previous video, and you're communicating and you're paying for its space. You want control over the message delivered to potential customers. So advertisers are going to pay for that message and design an effective way to communicate to potential customers. So in this case, in the diagram or image over here, we have a lot of individual shopping, and billboards are the way to go. It's a way to generate attention, create some interest and desire, and you're going to find ways to use ads to drive engagement and then turn that engagement into sales. Selecting the right media is very important in advertising. Depending on your target market and who you're selling to, maybe they only use certain types of media. Not everybody uses social media such as Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. So you have to identify your target market and think about the most effective channels that are going to deliver the message to these individuals. We want as much exposure as possible, as much reach as possible, at the lowest cost possible. So there's a little bit of a trade-off between, obviously you want to have a lot of exposure, a lot of reach, but there's also a lot of cost as well because, buying an ad in the Super Bowl is going to cost like $6 or $7 million. So you obviously want to have a lot of targeted exposure, reaching the right people that are going to buy your products, but you also want to do it as effectively as possible so that you're using your money wisely and you're using your advertising budget in a very effective way. All right, let's get started with our first media, and it's good old television. Now, television has its pros and its cons, and some television ads can be quite pricey. But a lot of people still watch television. It's still relevant, even though less and less people are watching it. People watch sports, news, cartoons, and there's still some importance in having a TV ad if you feel that it's suitable for your business. Here are some of the pros and cons. Pros. Now, when you watch a television commercial, you can really utilize sights, sounds, and it can greatly visualize the product and you can demonstrate how to use it. So televisions are good in that you can see how it's being demonstrated. You can add a whole bunch of visuals, designs, play with sight and sound. So in that regard, it's quite effective. And television also has a lot of reach. There's high audience exposure because there can be millions of people tuning into a television show to watch it. Now, the cons of television are in the high cost of time and commercial production. You have to devote some time to produce the commercial, edit it, and this can be very costly for many businesses. A lot of the commercials are also clustered together, so there's a little bit of noise in just getting a regular individual to watch some of the commercials. There's also a lot of fragmentation. When an individual sees commercials, maybe they watch the commercial or maybe they also skip it as well and they go to a different station. I know of PVR, my sister, if we're watching a TV show, we're just going to go ahead and skip the commercials. So there are definite pros in that you can really illustrate the product, visualize it, use sight and sound, and reach a lot of people, but it might not be targeted. There's a high cost. A lot of the commercials are clustered together. You never know when it's going to be aired. And it's also quite fragmented because if you see a commercial in one channel, maybe you go ahead and you skip to a different channel. Okay, the next one is radio. And radio is pretty effective because it's also very targeted. You can be very selective in choosing what type of station to match the audience to your target market. So for example, you can look at types of music or maybe radio stations like TV stations. So it can be quite targeted. There's also a lot of reach and a lot of frequency because you can repeat the same message. So sometimes if I'm driving to work, maybe I have the radio on and I could hear the same message maybe 2 or 3 times within a 30 to 45 minute interval. So it's high frequency, high reach, and you reach a lot of individuals. Now, the cons of radio are that the customer can be quite distracted. Maybe they're doing something else. The messages could be quite short, so retention is a little bit of an issue. Again, like TV, it's quite fragmented in that there's many stations. If you're trying to listen to music and maybe you hear a commercial, you might skip it. And there's also an issue with visual aspect of the radio ad. You can't really see the product, you can't really see a demonstration. So the radio ads are only effective in verbal communication. So in that regard, radio ads are quite targeted. They have a high reach, high frequency, but there are issues with retention, a lot of different stations, and you can't see the product or how it's demonstrated. All right, let's talk about direct mail. Now, with direct mail, you have a pre-selected audience because you can think about the neighborhood that you want to sell around. So maybe you're selling in this specific neighborhood, and then you send out flyers to people that live around a restaurant or business. So it's very targeted because you want to get those individuals and families to come to your business. It's also very controlled. Expenditure can be evaluated directly for effectiveness. So if you're sending out coupons or flyers, you can actually see how many of these coupons and flyers were used compared to how much you spent for your advertising and your business. So it's very targeted, a lot of control, and there's also a few cons as well. It can ruin a brand image, especially if you produce a very low quality flyer. So maybe you're trying to get flyers out to homes around your business, and if you do it very poorly, it can ruin your brand image and it can be hard to promote your products because many people may consider these flyers to be low value or it seems like a cheap business. And it can also be quite expensive as well. It's 15 to 20 more times more expensive than newspaper and other various forms of paper advertising because of the postage, and you have to produce the ad and you have to produce it in color. So there are some pros and cons. It's very targeted, a lot of control for expenditure. You can assess how many people, if you send out a coupon, how many people used a coupon. And there's some cons in that it can ruin your brand image if it's not directly targeted for your type of customer. And there's also a lot of cost as well in producing direct mail to your potential customers. All right, let's learn about magazines. Now, magazines have their pros and cons. But one of the biggest pros about a magazine is that it's very targeted. A specific demographic of people read these magazines. And if it's a good fit with your business, then it might be useful to place an ad in this magazine. So maybe you're selling cosmetics and you go to a fashion magazine and you put an ad there. So it might be a good fit. It also might be good for the environment because the quality of the magazine content can enhance your brand image. So if you're looking at placing your ad in a premium fashion magazine, and if you get yourselves in there, it might be good in developing your brand image and just good brand synergy because it matches well with the magazine. Here are some cons. In a magazine, there's often quite a lot of ads. There could be a lot of clutter, so this can be quite distracting in getting people to read your ad. It's also low frequency because maybe the fashion magazine is only published once every 2 months or 3 months. So there could be low frequency in the amount of monthly publications. So there's definite pros and cons. Definite pro is that it's very targeted, it can enhance your brand image, but there's also a lot of clutter and not there's not a lot of frequency when it comes to magazines because it can be once every 2 months or 3 months, so not as frequent as a newspaper, for example. All right, I have two more topics to cover. Let's learn about newspapers. Newspapers are pretty handy because it's a good reach to your local community and those who are likely to shop at your business. So, a lot of people may read the newspaper every day, checking for maybe comics, crosswords, maybe have some news articles. So, it's good to be good reach because maybe you put your ad there and it's going to be quite handy for your business to get noticed by people that read the newspaper. It's quite flexible. The message can be customized, updated, and inserted pretty quickly. But here are some of the cons. If it's a daily newspaper and you only buy it once or twice for 1 or 2 days, it's short. It only lasts 1 day unless it's an online article because people may read the newspaper and then they throw it away and they forget about the newspaper. It's also not very specific because in a newspaper, many different types of people are going to read it. So it's not targeted, not focused, and not specific to the types of demographics or segmentation of people that you want to sell to. So if you're looking to sell to a specific demographic or target market, a newspaper is going to have broad reach, so it might not be the best fit. But if you're just trying to build reach, like general reach and coverage, and just trying to get the brand out to the people in your community, then a newspaper might be a good fit. And finally, we have outdoor billboards and transit. Sometimes you may see ads on like public transit buses. Maybe you see billboards and you can see it outdoors. So there's a few pros and cons. The big pro is that there's a lot of frequency and reach. And that let's say you have an individual passing by going to work and you place your billboard in a very good location. So this is going to reinforce the brand, build brand recognition, and it's designed for a very short message. So in this case, maybe Pepsi is going to have the products logo, but keep it simple because not everybody has a lot of time to read the message because they're driving. So use a lot of different colors, maybe have the logo and name, and that's pretty much it. So you want to keep it short. It's also pretty good because you can select which market to sell at. So you can select a specific, coverage, but there's also a few cons in that the message is very short. Don't put a paragraph, don't put many long sentences. It's going to be super short and mainly visual. The messages are very short outdoors, so there's not a lot of room to play around with a description or really if you're trying to inform others. But it's good if you're just trying to build general brand recognition. And another con is that the target market is quite broad. Much like a newspaper, it's not very targeted. It's very general reach, but it's not very targeted to the people that you want to sell your products to. So there you have it. Here are some forms of advertising, some types of advertising focused on traditional media. And I'm going to build a playlist within the Startup Starter Kit on e-commerce and selling online. So here's just a little lesson on some traditional forms of advertising and some pros and cons. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to leave a like, show a comment. You can just say hi. And thank you for watching today's episode. I'll see you later. Okay, bye-bye.